Welcome back to the channel too. We've got our 5 best bets for Sunday, February 2nd here for college basketball. We had a big slate obviously yesterday like there is every single week on Saturday, and now of course we're cooling down here with the Sunday slate, but obviously we still got 5 games that we like today for college basketball. Now obviously the news last night with the NBA, the Luka for AD trade, that's going to take the sports world by storm, but we still got college basketball today. And folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. Again, we're doing this all the way for the entirety of this college basketball season, and make sure to join us in a couple hours for our NBA predictions as well on the channel. There are 5 games in the National Basketball Association today as well, and also yesterday, again, was that Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis trade, AD to the Mavs, Luka to the Lakers. We did make a reaction video reacting, obviously, to that trade last night, so make sure to check that one out. That is linked in the description down below as well. All right, let's move on now to the first of our 5 best bets for today, and we're going to start in the Big 12 with the West Virginia Mountaineers going on the road to Cincinnati, Ohio to take on the Cincinnati Bearcats. In no world should the Cincinnati Bearcats be 5.5-point favorites against anybody. They're not that good. They're not Colorado bad in the Big 12. Obviously, the Buffaloes being 0-9, by far the worst team in the Big 12 this season. But Cincinnati's 2-7. They're coming off 3 straight losses, a 10-point loss at home to Texas Tech, 2 losses in Utah to BYU and to the Utes, both on the road, obviously. And now they come home to take on the West Virginia Mountaineers. A Mountaineers team that has been, a mixed bag so far this season, right? I mean, big wins this year against Iowa State and Morgantown. They go to Lawrence and beat Kansas, but then you look at some confusing losses like a home loss to Arizona State. And then, of course, you look at their other wins at Colorado, a home win against Oklahoma State. The losses, honestly, when you look at West Virginia, their losses all kind of make sense. I mean, at K-State, it is what it is. You're not expecting West Virginia to go on the road and beat anybody, honestly. The Arizona State loss, again, like we mentioned earlier, yeah, that one kind of sucks. But all the other losses, again, at home against Houston, it is what it is. Houston is a very elite team in the country right now. Arizona, obviously, at home they lost to. But again, look how good Arizona is. They're 9-1 in the conference, 15-6 as a whole this season. I don't think WVU's record and resume is honestly all that bad. Now, obviously, again, they're known for their big upset wins this year, again, against Iowa State and going to Kansas and winning. And I think they're able to pull one off here at Cincinnati. Now, I think money line is shaky, but we're just taking plus 5.5. Again, I don't care who wins the basketball game. I think we have it written down that Cincinnati's going to win. Again, that doesn't matter. All we need is a competitive basketball game. If WVU wins, we win. If WVU keeps it close and only loses by 5 or less, we win as well. So that's the play for this one. Plus 5.5 for the West Virginia Mountaineers. And obviously, again, we are hoping that Javon Small is a big day. He is the leading scorer, obviously, on this WVU team, averaging 19 points a game. This team has been without Tucker DeVries for a very long time. Obviously, he's been out since, I believe, the Georgetown game. So it has been Javon Small stepping up, obviously, with the scoring side of things. Amani Hansberry as well has been averaging 9.5. Jonathan Powell averaging 8. For the Cincinnati Bearcats, we have spoken about this team at length. We have picked so many Cincinnati Bearcats games, and usually it's been us honestly picking against the Bearcats. Now, this team's led by Simas, and, Simas is very up and down, kind of like West Virginia sometimes, honestly. But Simas has been scoring at least a little bit more consistently recently, been scoring at least 10 a night. Obviously, though, the 3 straight losses for the Bearcats, Simas with 10, 14, and 10. But when Cincinnati's at their best, obviously, that's when Simas is at his best. And obviously, he's getting the shooting going like we saw again at the end of the year last year for the Bearcats in the Big 12 championship game. And, of course, just in the end or at the end of conference play. I don't really trust Cincinnati at all, though. I get it. They're at home. West Virginia has to go to Ohio to play this basketball game. But I don't think Cincinnati should be favored to beat anybody right now. Again, I wouldn't mind a minus 2.5 here for the Bearcats. I'd probably stay away from that, but 5, I think, is just too many points. Cincinnati, again, three-game losing streak. When we look at them at home, the win over Arizona State, again, a good victory. The other home games, though, this year in the Big 12 for them are Kansas, they lost. Arizona came to town, they lost. I get it, those are difficult teams. But I think West Virginia is just able to keep this game competitive. Again, we've seen West Virginia go on the road time in and time out this season and play close games. Who's to say they can't do that against a very lowly Cincinnati team who, again, is coming off those back-to-back losses where they got blown out in their first game against BYU and then got blown out again when they played the Utah Utes on Tuesday. Again, you're going to get Simas, who potentially can go off, but they've been really relying more on Skillings, and Jizzle James recently has been the guy, or who have been the guys who have been scoring a lot for the Bearcats. The best player on the court, the most consistent player on the court tonight, though, in this game is going to be Javon Small. Small, again, is a guy who averages 19 points for West Virginia. Did only put up 8 points against Houston, but again, Houston's just that good. Small is a guy who's going to play, 38 out to 40 minutes per game. Scored 22 in the K-State loss. Scored 27 in the win over Iowa State. Again, if West Virginia is going to cover this line like we are expecting, we need Javon Small to have a good game. I don't care who wins the basketball game. Again, you're getting minus 225 for the Bearcats, plus 190 for the Mountaineers. We are just taking plus 5.5 for West Virginia. I feel like it's the safest pick here. Yeah, Cincinnati might win, but are they going to really win by that much? I don't expect so. I'm going to take the West Virginia Mountaineers on the road to cover the 5.5 against the Cincinnati Bearcats. Let's move on now to our second game of the day, and we move to a game between Wright State and Robert Morris in Dayton, Ohio. So sticking in Ohio for this one, we're going with the road team here in the Colonials of Robert Morris. Wright State, a 5-7 team so far this year in the Horizon League. The Horizon League has played 1 million games so far already. But Wright State 5-7 in the Horizon League, Robert Morris an 8-4 team in the Horizon League, and the only reason the Raiders of Wright State are favored to win this basketball game is because, again, the game is in Dayton, Ohio. But Robert Morris is a team right now on a 6-game winning streak, and I am all over the Colonials in this spot. Again, a win in their last game over Wright State at home for Robert Morris. They win it by 3. They go on the road to Green Bay. Obviously, that team's horrible, but they beat the Phoenix of Green Bay. They go to Milwaukee, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. They go on the road, beat them by 2 points. Incredible victory. They go on the road and beat Youngstown State by 2 points. They return home and they win back-to-back spots against Oakland and against IU Indianapolis. Obviously, the Youngstown State game was a Cam Woods buzzer beater, but Robert Morris has shown that they can go on the road and win, and it has been, again, a lot to do with Cam Woods, who not only just hit that buzzer beater over Youngstown State. Cam Woods is a guy who averages 14.5 and 5 per night. He is the best player on this Robert Morris team, and this team's honestly not that bad, again, in the Horizon League. You look at the Wright State Raiders. This is a team that's been very off and on. Again, a team that is under 500 in the Horizon League, or obviously in conference play this year. They lost their last game on the road to Youngstown State, a competitive game that Youngstown State was able to win. A win at home before that to Detroit Mercy. A loss where they got blown out by Milwaukee when they hosted Milwaukee. They gave up 120 points against Purdue Fort Wayne in a conference game. Again, it was a double overtime spot, but still the Mastodons were able to win that one 120 to 113. And again, like Milwaukee, we're going to speak more about the Mastodons later on in this video. But Wright State has lost at home time in and time out this season, and Robert Morris has been able to go on the road and beat a bunch of teams in the Horizon League as well. Now, Wright State's going to score. They have guys who can get to the hoop. They have guys who can shoot it. We're talking about Brandon Noel, who averages 18.5 points a game. Alex, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, averages 15. Jack Doumba averages 13 as well. They got scorers on this Wright State Raiders teams, but again, the problem that they face a lot of the times is that they just can't play defense, and a lot of teams are going to score big points in them. Exhibit A, obviously Wright State giving up 120 to Purdue Fort Wayne. And again, the Mastodons aren't that bad. Yes, they were a team that lost to Detroit Mercy earlier in the season. We got that one right, by the way, but still, not the best case. You're giving up 120 points, especially against a Robert Morris team, and I get it, again, that was double overtime, but you're taking on a Colonial squad that can score and can score effectively. Again, 106 points in the win over IU Indianapolis. I get it, IU Indianapolis is pretty bad. They're somehow not the worst in the conference, but Robert Morris, again, they've got guys who can score. Cam Woods scored 17 in that game, and you get, double digits out of DJ Smith, Amarion Dickerson. You get Alvaro who's going to put up 11 in the IU Indianapolis game. Josh Omajafo, who scored 14 as well. And you had multiple guys off the bench score double digits as well for the Colonials. This team can score, and I think matchup-wise, they do match up fairly well with Wright State. I get there on the road, but I think this is great value here for the Colonials. You look at the odds, plus 125 for the Colonials, minus 145 for Wright State. So yes, we're even getting 2 points in this game for for Robert Morris on the road, and I'm all over that here. I don't think Wright State's that much better. I don't think the game being at Wright State makes that much of a difference. Wright State has lost to comparable teams as Robert Morris, or comparable teams to Robert Morris. Just a couple games ago, they lost to Milwaukee, who, again, I would say is kind of on that same level as Robert Morris. They lost to Milwaukee 95-79. It's an inconsistent team. It's a team that's lost at home to Youngstown earlier in the year. They lost to Purdue Fort Wayne in double overtime at home earlier this year. They're not that great of a squad. I don't know why they're getting all this respect on the line. again, they got guys who can score with Noel and company, but I do think Robert Morris is the better basketball team. Don't think Wright State's able to stop them defensively, and I think Robert Morris should be able to attack and score in this basketball game. So give me the Colonials on the road. They've been on fire recently. They didn't start, the hottest in Horizon League play this year, but they have really come on as the season has continued on. So give me the Robert Morris Colonials on the road to take down the Wright State Raiders. They've just been the better basketball team recently, and they're going to continue to show that with this win on the road in Dayton. Let's move on to our third best bet of the video as we stick in the Horizon League for a game in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, obviously between the Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons and the Milwaukee Panthers. So again, we just mentioned the Horizon League. We're going to talk about them some more now. And this is just a spot between two really good teams in the Horizon League. And we talk about kind of the elite squads in the Horizon. We just talked about one in Robert Morris. Cleveland State hasn't been mentioned yet today, a team that I didn't think was that good to start the year. Hell, Milwaukee beat them to kick off Horizon League play, I believe, in December, and Cleveland State, the Vikings, have not lost a conference game since. They have won 11 straight conference games since losing to the Milwaukee Panthers earlier, I guess, or actually back now in 2024. Milwaukee, though, is an 8-3 team in the Horizon League. You look at Purdue Fort Wayne, they are an 8-4 team in the Horizon League. Milwaukee's losses: Robert Morris at home, Purdue Fort Wayne on the road, and then at Oakland. Again, we can talk about that road loss for Milwaukee at Purdue Fort Wayne. It's a 5-point loss. I think that margin is able to be made up in this spot. You look at the line for this game. Milwaukee is a -175 favorite. Purdue Fort Wayne is a +150, so 3.5-point favorites are the Milwaukee Panthers, and I'm willing to play that line here. This is a team that has won 4 out of their last 5 games, and you look at what they've been doing at home. Again, a competitive loss to Robert Morris. It is what it is. That's a good basketball team that we just spoke at lengths about, but wins at home against Green Bay, who's horrible, but then a good 15-point victory over a solid Youngstown State team, winning that one 79-64. Now back-to-back road victories as well for Milwaukee as they return home tonight. Obviously, they haven't played in a week. They've been fully rested. Back-to-back road victories against Wright State and against the Norse of Northern Kentucky as well. This Panthers team is led by famous Fulks, who's averaging 15 points a night. JaMychal Stillwell is going to give you 13.5. Kentrell Pullian going to give you 13. AJ McKee with 11.5, and Eric Pratt with 11.5 as well. This entire starting lineup can score. Pratt, came back from injury recently, and he's been playing fairly well, fairly effective for Milwaukee. He's been back for a while now, but still, the last 3 games, 13, 15, and then 20 and 23 minutes for Pratt in that victory on the road at Northern Kentucky. I like Milwaukee a lot in this spot. Purdue Fort Wayne, they've been better as the season has gone on. Again, I was very down on them to start Horizon League play because the first game, I watched all season long from Purdue Fort Wayne was when we did have Detroit Mercy to cover. I think it was like 14.5 points at home for Detroit Mercy, and they won the game outright against Purdue Fort Wayne. Now, obviously, again, Detroit Mercy was the worst team in college basketball last year, but hey, this year, obviously, that's not them, and it's not also the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils with a huge victory yesterday on the road at Arkansas Pine Bluff. Yes, Arkansas Pine Bluff, the Golden Lions, are now officially the worst team in college basketball this year. A huge development yesterday out the SWAC. But anyways, Purdue Fort Wayne starts their Horizon League play by losing to Detroit Mercy on the road. They then proceed to win 2 in a row, though, against Robert Morris and IU Indianapolis. But recently, though, out of Purdue Fort Wayne, they have lost 2 of 3. They went on the road to Oakland, lost by 4 points. They go on the road and beat again that very lowly IU Indianapolis team. And then most recently, a loss on Thursday at home where they hosted Cleveland State. Again, I get it. Cleveland State's the best team in the conference, but a road loss at Oakland, who is not a bad basketball team either, right? I mean, Oakland has come up multiple times, and we've been talking about the Horizon League team as the Horizon League as a team that's able to steal a game on the road or just steal a game in general. Oakland is 7-6 this year. They're a middling squad, obviously, in this conference. But again, 2 out of the last 3 have been losses for Purdue Fort Wayne. Milwaukee's won 4 out their last 5. Again, yes, Purdue Fort Wayne did get them in their first encounter, but again, that's a game that was being played in Fort Wayne. Now you go up north to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I like the Panthers here. Again, I like famous Fulks, who's averaging 15-5 for this Milwaukee team. The Mastodons have their guys who can score. It's been Rasheed Bello recently, and obviously almost every night it's going to be their leading scorer who averages 20 a night. That's going to be Jalen Jackson. Corey Hadnot, the second, averages 10 a game as well. Same can be said about their forward and Eric Mulder. But I do think Milwaukee is the slightly better team. I think these are two very competitive basketball teams. But again, something you got to realize in this spot, the Horizon League plays so many games. Again, we are in February and they've played, 14 conference games already? My math is horrible. 12. My apologies. But they've already played 12 conference games, right? I mean, this is a very active league. They start conference play all the way in December, and, now they have, very limited schedules down the stretch of the season, I would say. But Milwaukee's been off for 8 days. Purdue Fort Wayne just played on Thursday. I think that kind of, plays into account in this one as well. Again, I think these two teams are close, but with Milwaukee not playing in 8 days and Milwaukee being at home, I do like the Panthers in this spot ever so slightly, and I think they should be able to cover the points as well. So 3.5 points, Milwaukee's favored to win this game by, and I think they're going to do it. Give me the Milwaukee Panthers at home to win and cover the 3.5 here against the Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons. Let's move on to our fourth game of the video, and we go to the Summit League. We love talking about the Summit League here on the channel, and we're going to get another shot right now. I don't know how, this wasn't a best bet yesterday, but I don't know how South Dakota State, they go to Fargo and beat North Dakota State, but then yesterday, they go to Grand Forks and lose to UND. How does that happen? I don't know, but if we're, going to think of anything, or if we're going to make anything out of that result for South Dakota State yesterday, is that St. Thomas, Minnesota should be able to beat North Dakota State. Why? Again, South Dakota State was able to beat North Dakota State in Fargo, and now again they lost to UND in their next spot. St. Thomas, Minnesota has been a better team than both NDSU and SDSU so far in the Summit League. Obviously, Omaha right now is the best team in the conference. They have one loss, but they have a win over St. Thomas, Minnesota at the same exact time. Now, St. Thomas has already beat both North Dakota State and South Dakota State this year, and that's why I'm a little bit confused with these odds. I'm confused why this line is so close. If I were making the odds for this game, I'd place this as, the same odds that we got in our last game in the Horizon League between Milwaukee and Purdue Fort Wayne. I don't know why St. Thomas is only 1.5 point favorites in this one. They've looked great all year long in the Summit League. Again, this is a 7-1 team in conference play this year. Their only loss is on the road to the team that's leading the conference in Omaha, and they have a win on the road already this year in Fargo over North Dakota State. They had a huge victory earlier in the year as well at home where they beat the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State, which I get it. SDSU just came off that loss to UND, but that's a team I expect to be around at the end of the Summit League tournament this year, obviously, with Oscar Clough, the former Wazoo product, who's probably going to get somewhat of a look this year, at least in the NBA draft or potentially, obviously, in the Summer League. But St. Thomas, Minnesota has been good all year long. I mean, this team keeps on, exceeding expectations, and a lot of that has to be credited to Miles Barnstable, who's averaging 15.5 points a game, but it feels like every single night he is leading the Tommies in points. Kendall Blue averaging 12, Drake Dobbs with 11.5, Nolan Minnesota with 10.5, and Carter Bajik, probably butchered that, he's averaging 10 as well. Now, I was down on the Tommies earlier in the year before we really got into Summit League play because of their loss on the road to UCR. Again, I just thought at that point in the season UCR wasn't very good. St. Thomas was, performing fairly well in non-conference play. They only had a loss to Milwaukee on the road and at ASU, and at Oklahoma State too. I thought St. Thomas was better or good enough to go on the road and beat UCR and go to that cesspool and win. Unfortunately, they didn't. But again, knowing what we know now about UC Riverside, what Burrington Hargis is doing for that team, that's not that bad of a Highlanders squad. For St. Thomas, Minnesota, since that loss in the cesspool, they have won every single game except that, of course, loss at Omaha. So for North Dakota State, right, not a bad basketball team at all as well. Again, I saw this team in person this year. I got to watch them when they played Santa Clara on the road. I think, again, Jakari White and Jackson Money are two really good players. Money averaging 20, Jakari White averaging 15.5. Those two guys are very good. Mason Miller, their other guard, averaging 10 points a night. It's not a bad team. But I think when they go on the road, they're going to have trouble here against St. Thomas, Minnesota, a team that's going to be able to score, a team that's going to play decent defense. I mean, they shut down Oral Roberts to 71 when they played the other night. They went to Kansas City and held the Roos to only 65 points as well. When they hosted Denver, Denver only scored 62. They do have their fair share of high-scoring games as well. Obviously, the South Dakota win over the Coyotes, 119-104. But I think, again, you got to look back at that first matchup in Fargo, January 2nd. It's a road win for St. Thomas, Minnesota, and they've only looked better since that spot. For the Bison, I mean, they lose that game to St. Thomas, Minnesota. They lose to Omaha, Nebraska at home as well. And then they drop a game as well to South Dakota State and Fargo as well. I mean, 3 losses to the other 3 top teams in your conference at home isn't ideal, considering, the Bison have to go on the road and play all these teams as well. Now, it can be stated North Dakota State's been much better on the road this season than they've been at home, right? I mean, they've got some very key victories on the road so far this year. They went to Santa Clara and beat the Broncos, and they also went to Butler this year and beat the Bulldogs in Indianapolis, right? This team has been very good on the road all year long, even though, confusingly enough, they went to Cal State Bakersfield and lost, but then they proceeded the next game to go to Santa Clara and win. Very odd. But I think this is where the road luck ends. I do think the Tommies are the better basketball team. Again, I like Monty. I like Jakari White. They're good basketball players. But I do think the Tommies, again, as a whole, is the all-around better basketball team. And I think, again, with them being at home, they've been playing better all year long in Summit League play. They already beat North Dakota State earlier in the season. I expect them to get their second victory here over the Bison. St. Thomas just plays, at a slower pace, so their guys don't average the same numbers as Money and as White, but I think we're fine here. Matchup-wise, I do like the Tommies a lot. They've been the second best team in the Summit League all year long. I think, again, once we get to the Summit League tournament, I think it is still pretty hard to bet against South Dakota State, if I'm being honest. I think the favorites will definitely be Omaha still because of how well they've played, and I think second probably would be South Dakota State. But who knows? Again, we'll get to the Summit League tournament when we get there, obviously, in March. But for now, I'm taking the Tommies. I'm very surprised at the odds. This is probably my favorite pick of the day. I'm just surprised we get these odds for St. Thomas at home. Only minus 125 favorites. We're going to be all over this line. I expect this to move by the time this game actually starts at 1 p.m. Give me the St. Thomas Tommies to beat North Dakota State. You can take them to cover 1.5. Just take the money line at minus 125 for the Tommies at home in Minnesota. Let's move on to our final game of the night, and we go to the Big East. This is just a low-level Big East basketball game, but I think the pick is too good to pass up here. We're taking Seton Hall on the road. Don't care who wins. I think Seton Hall has the possibility of winning this game. Now, this is a very dumbed down version of when New Mexico went on the road yesterday and beat Utah State. Now, obviously, I don't think Seton Hall's got the same potential to win the basketball game as I thought New Mexico had to go on the road yesterday and beat Utah State. Again, if you've been watching the channel all year long, you know how highly I think of the Lobos. But I do think Seton Hall has more than a good enough chance to go on the road and beat DePaul. Again, if I had to bet my life savings on either team to win at home, just to win this game in general, I would take Seton Hall to go on the road and beat DePaul. I would. We've seen Seton Hall beat DePaul already this year. That was their only win in conference play. And sure, again, the game was at Seton Hall, but the Pirates win it by 5 points. And I know what you're thinking. They haven't won a game since, but their results at least have been close. DePaul doesn't really play close basketball games. They don't. They had that one win where somehow, some way, they snapped a 39-game losing streak in the Big East when they went to Georgetown and won. I mean, it was just disgusting for the Hoyas. It was absolutely horrible. I think Patrick Ewing could have laced up the shoes and probably played a better game than what Georgetown did in that one. But still, DePaul, they have that one win over Georgetown. They played Marquette fairly close. Other than that, they don't play competitive basketball games. Don't be fooled by those 2 spots in back-to-back games. What have they done since their one win in the Big East? Again, guys, DePaul is satisfied because of that one win. They got that win, then they're off. Again, they're off of the hook. They don't, got to stare down the barrel of this losing streak, at least not for another 37 games down the line here, but 36 now, but DePaul, since the Georgetown win on the road, they return home, they play Creighton, their first win in forever, and they lose the game 73-49. And they go to Butler, they get killed, they lose the game by double digits, 86-69, and they go to UConn, lose by double digits as well. This is a DePaul team that still struggles to score, and again, trust me, I know Seton Hall struggles to score a lot as well. That's why they lose all their games, is because they can't find ways to score. But I think of the Providence games, the 2 that they played against Providence, the one at Rhode Island and the one they just played at home on the 28th on Tuesday. There's something to work off of there. There really is. Seton Hall was very competitive against Providence in that basketball game. They were very competitive. They had a lot of opportunities to potentially win that game in the second half. They had possibilities to get back in that basketball game. Wasn't a bad game at all for Seton Hall. They ended up covering that line at home, obviously. And I was more than impressed with Seton Hall in that basketball game to the point where now I think they can go on the road here and beat DePaul. Again, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination the Seton Hall Pirates are an elite offense. They're not. They're nothing close to that. But honestly, I think Seton Hall is playing a little bit better on offense right now than DePaul is. I think so. Guys, DePaul still really struggles to score as well. I mean, it's been that way since their first Big East game this year, obviously, where they had a more than a good enough chance to win their first Big East game this year against Providence, where they took them to overtime and ended up losing, obviously, where I don't think they scored a point in overtime. They might have scored like I mean, they scored a garbage time too. This team just struggles to score. Jacob Meyer averages 12, CJ Gunn with 12, Isaiah Rivera with 9. Like, it's not that good of a scoring team, and I get it. That's where, again, Seton Hall more than struggles with as well. But Isaiah Coleman's been really good recently. And Isaiah Coleman, I think, is going to make up the difference in this basketball game. I really think so. Isaiah Coleman had a poor first half against Providence and then just had a horrible second half as well. He scored 2 points in that basketball game. I don't think that happens in back-to-back spots. So here's the thing again. If Seton Hall only lost to Providence by 2 points and their best player and best scorer only scores 2 points and goes 0 for 10 from the field, this team's a lot better than we think they are. I think so. They had their struggles on offense to start the year in Big East play. They're still 1-9. I get that. But if your best player is 0 for 10, he doesn't hit a single field goal in that basketball game, and you only lose it by 2, I don't think they're that bad to the point where they can't beat this horrible DePaul team. Again, this is a guy in Isaiah Coleman who has the capability of scoring 25 in a game easily. He scored 27 against Marquette. He scored 25 earlier in the year against Georgetown. The DePaul victory, the first game, he scored 24. Against Providence, he scored 26. In the other Providence game on the road in Rhode Island. Like, he's more than capable of scoring. I don't think DePaul, again, if Coleman's on and the rest of the Seton Hall Pirates team plays like they did at home the other night against Providence, they're going to be more than fine in this spot. They're not just going to cover this game. They'll win it outright as well. So give me the Seton Hall Pirates to close out the video, plus 4.5. I don't mind plus 175 on the money line as well. Give me the Pirates on the road to pick up their second win in Big East play over the DePaul Blue Devils. Demons. That's Duke. The Blue Demons. Anyways, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for our daily college basketball best bets in the channel. We'll be back tomorrow again for more best bets throughout the week and obviously throughout the college basketball season. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.